Welcome and good evening, everybody, and welcome to Darkwoods Paranormal, where every haunted destination begins with a road, a story, and the people we meet along the way. I, of course, am your humble host, Gabriel Von Graves, and thanks for joining us tonight. We are here at Darkwoods Paranormal is more than just a paranormal show. We travel the back roads, forgotten towns, historic landmarks, haunted locations, and mysterious places across America, searching for stories, legends, and the experiences that challenge what we think we know about our world. Whether it's a ghost story, a strange encounter, an unexplained phenomenon, or a question about life itself, we believe every mystery deserves a conversation. Alongside me, of course, helping me make this broadcast possible is our producer and co-host, Raven Knight. Raven, how you doing?
I am fabulous. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad that we're all here together.
Yes, it's good to see you. So Raven works behind the scenes, helping bring these stories and conversations to life, and we're very grateful to having here as part of the Darkwoods Paranormal family. Sometimes, at least. Tonight's program is brought to you by our sponsors, Dark Realm TV, bringing independent paranormal horror mysteries and supernatural programming to audiences around the world. And also, let's not forget Shaker Cigar Bar, one of Milwaukee's most legendary and haunted locations, where history, spirits, and mystery continue to captivate visitors all over the country. Wonderful place, great food. Isn't that right, Raven?
Oh, the best old fashioned I think I've ever had.
And cigars. Let's not forget,
Mm.
they're wonderful cigars.
And it was a crab cake pot pie that I can't
Yeah,
stop
that was
thinking about.
actually really good.
Yeah.
And Unbox Media LLC, where imagination has no limits, from podcast production and media consulting to content creation and storytelling. Unbox Media helps creators and businesses bring their vision to life. So visit them at Unbox Media LLC. Now, tonight's guest, this is very exciting, beyond traditional paranormal investigations and into some of humanity's deepest and most enduring questions. Joining us is Tony Christie, spiritual teacher, healer, author, speaker, and long and lifelong student of the mysteries that have fascinated humanity for centuries. Also, a fabulous, good-looking guy. I want to mention that. Through decades of study and personal exploration, Tony has developed a unique perspective that blends spirituality, personal growth, and ancient wisdom, symbolism, consciousness, and the unseen aspects of our existence. His work encourages people to challenge conventional thinking, look beyond fear, and explore deeper questions about purpose, intuition, transformation, and what many lie beyond the physical world. That's cool, huh, Raven?
It's
Now,
so
Tony is also an author of The Labyrinth. Labyrinth. I said that right, right? The Labyrinth. Yeah.
I think
Your
so.
path to self discovery, a powerful exploration of the ancient labyrinth symbol and its connection to navigating life's challenges and uncovering inner wisdom. Very cool. Now, his new book, Death, You Gotta Love It, which I love the title, Choosing Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition, examines one of humanity's most universal experiences, rather than approaching death through fear. Tony offers a perspective centered on understanding connection, growth, and transformation. Very important. So, tonight we'll be exploring topics that have intrigued humanity since the beginning of record history. What happens when we die? What is consciousness? Can intuition connect us to something greater? Do our loved ones continue beyond physical existence? And is reality far more complex than we currently understand? Whether you're a paranormal investigator, a spiritual seeker, or simply someone who has ever looked up the sky and wondered what comes next, tonight's conversation promises to be challenging assumptions and inspire deeper thoughts. So settle in. Grab your favorite beverage and join us as Darkwoods Paranormal welcomes Tony Christie. Tony, thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome to Darkwoods Paranormal. How are you doing?
Thank you, Gabriel. I'm doing very well, thanks. And hello, Raven, and
Hello,
hello to
hello.
everybody listening, watching, whatever. And yeah,
Yes.
greetings from Ireland at this
Greetings from
paranormal hour.
Ireland with a wonderful accent, by the way. I can listen to you
I could
forever.
say
I love it.
I love the accent first of
one
all,
one
and
one
also
a.m. Yeah,
we have to
fun.
point out the fact that it's like 1 o'clock in the morning there for you,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it
you're
is. Yeah,
here with us, which is amazing. So thank you
Amazing.
so
it's
much
Monday.
for.
Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
And by the way, there's a moth in my room, and so if you see something flying around, that's not AI. That's real.
It's not an
You just have
orb
a
or
friend.
anything.
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if I go, oops, yeah, you'll know it's only the
We
moths.
just
Yeah.
assume you're losing your mind. You're just looking all
You're like,
over.
what? What is it?
It's okay.
Love it. Oh, well,
So,
okay. So,
Raven, what do you think? Where should we start? Such
oh
a
gosh.
fascinating guy. I don't even know where to go.
Hmm.
So but I always do the cliche question, but Gabriel, because it's so important, he always gives me a look, Tony. But I'm always curious about your background, and I
Yeah.
want to know like how you got your start. Where did we talked about that you did the book about the labyrinth and all of that, but where did your writing begin? Where did you get your start as a writer, and
Yeah.
also all of these
Okay.
other things that you do? Yeah, I mean it's
I'll even give you a bit more of a backstory. I worked for over 30 years in the Irish public service as a senior manager, which was interesting. But
okay.
I could do it, but it wasn't doing it for me. So about 10 years ago, I left that. But over 20 years ago, I met my now wife, who was more into this area than I was at the time.
Mhm.
So much so that if she was talking about spirits or entities with our friends, I'd run out of the room. I just couldn't. I couldn't be. I was so scared of all that, that I couldn't even be in the same room. So, but there was stuff in me. Obviously, whatever was happening with me, I wasn't able to go there or to be in those spaces at the time. And so she had a deck of angel cards. I don't know if you're familiar with angel cards, but she asked
Oh
me
yeah.
one evening would I like to pick one, and it was called Melchizedek's Labyrinth. And I had never seen a labyrinth before, or I would say not in this lifetime anyway. And so I got interested in the labyrinth and made a little one in the back garden and started walking it. And I found that I got a lot of benefits from the labyrinth. I would um, feel a lot more centered and calm and peaceful after walking the labyrinth. And then people would come visiting the house and say, "What's that thing in the garden?" With the spirals. And so I started talking about it, and they said, "Oh, you should do workshops on this." So I started doing workshops, and then it's like because I was getting a lot of insights into my own life and even healing from it. I found the labyrinth is a very powerful healing tool, and so I decided I'm going to have to share this some way. So the first way I shared it was in a deck of labyrinth cards, like angel cards, and you.
Mhm.
So if you don't have a labyrinth to walk, you can just pick one of these cards, and there's a message of guidance and insight in each one. So and each card is some aspect of you or your journey in life, which is what I found the labyrinth is. So somewhere along the way, when I left that job 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I'm losing count.
Mhm.
Um, I left it mainly to write my book about the labyrinth and to move into. I had started training in my own journey of what's the word, personal development or growth. I trained in many different forms of energy healing, like Reiki and Access
Mm.
Consciousness, and I even reflexology. Sort of twiddling your thumbs on your feet and stuff like that. And about 3 weeks after, I meditate most mornings because it brings me into a different state of awareness, which is interesting itself, the places I find myself in meditation. And how to use the labyrinth in one-to-one healing sessions with people came through for me. And so I found that as people were training, I don't know, see if people are watching, I'll hold up a labyrinth just to give an
Yeah.
example in case people aren't familiar with it. This is one, and you trace the path and it winds around and brings you to the center. So it's symbolic, symbolic of growth. Sound effects are free.
I like that. Use good sound effects.
It's
That was good.
it's
Thank you for
it's.
that.
Oh, the labyrinth will meet you with a bang. Yeah. It's, so it's symbolic of going to your own center. And the journey to your own center involves a lot of healing and clearing of energies or traumas or different events from your life that you may be carrying knowingly or unknowingly. And so I found that if I held a dowsing rod, in Ireland it's called a divining rod, the rod, as people were tracing the path with their finger, this is in the small one that I showed you, that the rod would move at certain points that were significant for the person doing it or for you doing it. And so there was either a clearing of old energies or there was new energy coming in for that specific area of their life. So I started, this was back, and so what did I say, 10 years ago. And then I asked one or two of my friends if they'd be interested in being guinea pigs to see what they thought of this. There's a second part as well, bringing in energy, and they loved it so much. They says, "Can you train us in how to do this?" So I ended up training. I've trained 50 or 60 people worldwide in that now, and the response has been phenomenal from people. I kind of have to pinch myself sometimes and say, what's happening with me? How come it's me? And so, what else? Yeah, I have another book coming out shortly in the next few weeks called Death. You Gotta Love It.
I love
And
that.
again, I'm asking myself, why me? Because it's pushing the boundaries and it's flipping the script quite a bit in our approach to death. But it's about moving. It's about moving from a space of fear to a space of love, not only in relation to death, but in relation to every aspect of your life. So I found that I was either in a space of fear or a space of love, whether it was running out of the room or whether it was heights or spiders or whatever, or some less than normal activities that we might encounter. And so yeah, that's a very brief summary of me and where I am now. So yeah,
That's
and every
actually
time I
pretty
I have a
fantastic.
lot of other books in my head, and some of them are, about, and mainly spiritual or esoteric or hidden, or bringing new. I feel I'm bringing new information, for people. And so every time I checked in as to which book I should write next, it was always lately Do the Death book. So it's like there's something greater at work here, and I'm just going along for the ride, really.
I
Interesting.
think
So it's like there's a
that's
vessel.
fabulous. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a vessel for whatever is being communicated, right? Like that's what it almost like kind of
yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like. Yeah.
yeah.
I love the idea of the labyrinth. Like I had never really heard much about that. I don't know if you have, Gabriel, if that's
I
something
know
that
nothing about the labyrinth, but if you could give us a history of lesson of where it comes from
Yeah.
and what does it do? I understand that it's a relaxation aspect, and or is it more of a centering aspect? I don't know a lot about it.
So, okay,
Gabriel also
so
doesn't meditate, so he doesn't know.
all right, yeah,
I
yeah,
need to
yeah.
though.
There's hope for you yet.
Okay,
There's hope
good,
for
good,
you yet.
good.
So this symbol is over 5,000 years old, found on rock carvings in Spain, in Italy, in India, but also found in some of the southern states in the USA. So I've actually toured around Arizona and New Mexico looking for labyrinths and exploring them. So and they're because of the I suppose it seems to have come to prominence in different times over those last 5,000 years, usually at a time when the structures, traditional structures in society are breaking down. And it's a bit like, so in the last 30 years the labyrinth has come back into prominence and people are getting more interested in it. And we can see, whether it is people's faith in the financial institutions or the church or the governments are kind of wavering or changing, and people are looking for some other way of finding guidance. So rather than listening and being told what to do, it's about shifting to finding your own inner wisdom and knowledge.
Mhm.
And so that's actually what I call the cards, access your inner wisdom. So, but most of the labyrinths, a lot of the labyrinths in the US, so people put them on the ground, they make them 30 foot, 40 foot diameter to walk. And the practice of walking, it quietens the mind and it brings you into a state of more centered and more balanced state. So and anything that's been of benefit down through the years, and in historically, the churches generally get their hands on it, and so there are Christian versions of it, which are also very powerful. So you will find there's probably a labyrinth near you if you actually go looking or inquiring about it. It may be in a church ground, it may be in a healing center, it may be in a public park. They
Sure.
put into hospitals. Even I know some dentists who have small ones, and they have them in the waiting room, or if children are coming, they get the children to trace it because it calms the children down before they go and before they go and into the dentist. And there's some wonderful stories, of the benefits of labyrinths. There was one story of a girl. She was 12 years old who was slightly on hyperactive and ADHD type conditions, and she would draw scary pictures and frighten her classmates, and she was very overactive, and some friend of the teachers brought in a labyrinth that they spread out on the floor like on a mat or on a sheet, and all the children walked it. But this child sat in the center for about 10 minutes, and she said, oh, I'm feeling, when she came out, she said, I'm feeling much more peaceful now. And all her drawings previously were kind of scary monsters, and
Mhm.
black and white. And she's drawing, the next drawing she drew was of herself asleep in the bed in
Oh,
colour. So,
Oh,
and
wow.
now she carries a small little folding one. Well, I don't, she's probably an adult well at this stage, but
Mhm.
she carries a small little cloth one that she keeps in her pocket. And anytime she's feeling stressed or anxious, she traces the path of it with her finger to calm herself down. So,
interesting.
so there's a huge energy or beneficial energy for it. And I do energy clearing as well, clearing of any discordant or unbalanced energies in property, in land and houses and that, so whether it's geopathic stress or entities or curses or negative thought forms, whatever it might be. But one of the tools I use is the labyrinth. And when I was training, there was a lady from the US came to Ireland to train people in this, and we check the level of geopathic stress on the land for on a scale. Just check with divining rods on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest. Where is it at? And there was about 20 people on this training, and we all checked for this area near where the centre was, where the training was happening, and everybody was getting a number of 7 or 8 out of 10, which was very high. And so we spread out the labyrinth, and then she asked 2 minutes later, saying, "Okay, everybody, check again," and immediately the geopathic stress levels were down at 2 and 3, just
Oh, wow.
instantly. So the labyrinth has a healing and a clearing effect on the land. So it'll clear heavier energies, and just a bit like, if it's centering yourself, and I think it's a higher vibrational device, for want of a better word. I mean, you see, the more I said, I've been what's the word, exploring the labyrinth for the last 20 years, and the more I learn about the labyrinth, the more I realize how little I know about it. It's a journey of exploration and wonder for me, and for everybody. Yeah. So,
Now, the labyrinth, the symbol itself, does it change? Do you
um,
like let's say I want to put a labyrinth in my back
mhm,
yard. Does it
yeah.
change? Do I have to change it, or is it a stationary symbol or
Oh,
kind of
oh yeah,
path?
it's usually fixed. So I have one here in my back garden. The rocks. So the foots are the paths are about 2 feet wide, and so the whole thing is about 30 30 feet or so. So a lot of them are you see people drawing them on the beach. Sometimes they're paved. So people who are doing paving, they use different color paving, so you can see the pattern of the labyrinth um, in the paving, and you can walk it, and it's very wheelchair friendly and that. So if people are interested, there's a website called the Worldwide Labyrinth Locator, and there are 6 or 7 thousand labyrinths listed on that by state in the US, but by country in the rest of the world. So some people
Wow.
go labyrinth exploring wherever they are. So it's I'm sure there's some wherever people are listening. Check it out. I'm sure there's one there, and go and try it once.
I'll
No, to
do
try
that.
try everything twice is my motto.
Right.
You'll know the second time whether you like it or not. Yeah.
So is that a symbol of a labyrinth right behind you in the picture?
Yeah, yes, but this is my own adaptation of
Okay.
there's an ancient it's called a burial mound in Ireland, but it's not. It was a kind of an initiation mound over 5,000 years old in Ireland. There's a lot of rock carvings around it, and there's what's called a triple spiral. But there wasn't a path from the outside to the center, so I'm not sure how well you can see this one. I have little ones here as well, look like this.
Yeah.
Well, that's really
And
cool.
and so the three the three spirals, you go through each one of them and you end up at the center. But the three spirals will represent anything that come in threes: birth, death, and rebirth. They're past, present, and future, or thought, word, and deed. And so it's about, I call it a symbol of unity, but I use this as my logo, or yeah, my
Yeah.
And I
my
like
symbol.
that.
But
So
it came from, when I was in that job where I was manager, and I'd be attending some very boring meetings.
right.
I'd be doodling labyrinths, so that's one of my doodles.
I love it.
I like that. In our world, threes, like when you hear three knocks, it's usually bad, but I like that three is also a symbol of good.
Hmm.
Yeah, and three is the number of manifestations. So if you're trying to
Yeah.
bring something into your life, bring it three times, state it 3 times. Or even if you're, in the paranormal world, if you're meeting something, or if you're meeting some energies or some entities, or and they, you probably know they can be somewhat trickster type. So if you ask a question 3 times of an energy that you're not sure of, they have to tell you the truth. So it's not just asking once you can be deceived, but if you ask the question 3 times, you get the same answer. Then you know what you're dealing with. Let's put it like that.
Hmm. I do
Huh.
remember doing a story once on our what's the things that with the pot of gold
Leprechaun.
Oh, the
leprechauns,
leprechauns. Yeah.
and
Oh
and they
yeah.
actually
Leprechauns.
say something
Yes.
about three. They do 3 knocks, and they they you do have to ask them in threes because that's when you do know. No, I thought it was fascinating. I didn't know that much about leprechauns. And it's not because you're from Ireland. It just happened to pop in my head. Sorry about that. Yeah,
No, no. I
leprechauns.
mean, I mean, I believe in leprechauns and fairies and dragons and unicorns until somebody proves to me they don't exist. But so,
Right?
and
And that's the
actually,
magic
where
of
my
life,
labyrinth
isn't it?
is, there's a beautiful oak tree overlooking it, and there is a family of fairies living in that. So
Yeah.
I'm can proudly say that I'm sharing my lovely space here in Ireland with a family of fairies. And you see
That's
there's
fascinating.
See, the belief in Ireland is you scratch the surface, and while it might be a predominantly Catholic country, or was, there's a huge belief in the old ways, as we might call them.
Hmm.
So there are fairy forts that people won't touch. There are fairy trees. Even maybe 15, 20 years ago, there was a new motorway being built up through the country, and there was this type of tree. It's a hawthorn tree, and they're known as fairy trees. And it was in the middle of where the motorway was supposed to go, but the people using the big earth clearing equipment, they wouldn't touch it. So the motorway had to be moved, had to be moved, about I don't know, a few hundred feet to the left. And
Right.
and, and that fairy tree is still there, right in the side of the motorway. You can even find it on Google Maps now. The fairy tree apart. So
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
the people, the little people or the good people or whatever, and you don't mess with them.
No.
You get
No.
bad luck, and there you'll see some videos online if you kind of Google, on YouTube or something like that, Ireland fairies, good luck, bad luck, and you'll get a lot of stories. People, you don't bulldoze a fairy fort, bad luck, you'll end up
You don't
breaking your
tempt
leg
it.
or something.
No.
No, no, don't mess
Don't
with
touch
the
bad
and
luck at all.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we touched land a couple times, and you clear land when it comes
Yeah.
to spiritually. So I
yes,
think the land is the makeup of everything, right? So whatever you put on top of it, I believe the history beneath it still is active. And I'm assuming that's kind of the
yeah,
premise of what you work on. Can you talk to us a little bit about your process and some of the encounters that you've had when
yeah.
you've been kind of clearing the negative energy out of land?
Yeah. Um, so I check anything that can, what's the word, can negatively affect the land or the people living there. So
Mhm.
oftentimes, if there are negative impacts, sometimes it can be subtle. It can be just, poor financial flow or minor health issues or relationships aren't functioning or working out as well as people might. So there can be. So I check about 10 different aspects of the area of the land that can impact negatively on the people there. So whether it's geopathic stress, which is negative energy from the land, electromagnetic stress, um, the Hartmann grids, they're energy grids that run sort of overground worldwide. The Hartmann grid, and the Hartmann grid is one of, there's a few energy grids, but that's one of the main ones. And it's almost like if you go into a room and there's been an argument in there, it's like the atmosphere is a bit
Mm,
icy, or you could feel
Yep.
it. But you go
yes.
Mhm.
back 2 days later and that feeling isn't there anymore.
Right.
So the energies in a room and a space get absorbed into the Hartmann grid, which runs about their bands about 6 inches wide that run up to about 100 feet, and they run every 6 feet or so. So if you have divining rods, or if you're sensitive enough, you can actually feed yourself passing through these. And depending on what has happened on the land, they run north, south, and west to east. The energies over the years and millions of years, or thousands of years, accumulate in them. So every so often you get a negative one. And if you
Huh.
get a negative one going this way and a negative one going that way, where they cross, you'll get a negative vortex bringing in heavier negative energies. So oftentimes, sort of some of the places that you would be most interested in, would be a place where there's a negative vortex or a crossing of negative Hartmann lines. Actually, the only place there are no Hartmann lines are through the pyramids in Egypt. The
Really?
Hartmann grid moves around them. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah. And
Moves
that's
around them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Huh.
So that's the Hartmann grid. I also check for entities, spirits or ghosts or whatever name we put on it. I check for portals, where. So I check for the vortices, So some vortices are positive; they're bringing in positive energy. So if you like sitting in your favorite rocking chair or veranda or whatever it is, that there's a spot that you like sitting in, there's probably a positive vortex there for you. And there's new positive energies coming in. So it's not always negative energies that come in a vortex. And then there's a check for portals, which are interdimensional doorways, for want of a better
Yeah,
word.
portals, absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of time House will have those. So what else would I check for? Wall memory, for curses, and
oh
the
yeah.
land here in Ireland has, because there's been so many different invasions and people driven off the land, and that's why you've so you have more Americans or Irish in America than you have in Ireland, because they were a lot of them had to leave, or were driven
Right.
driven off the land at different times. And would check for what else? Black magic. Black magic can be quite strong. A lot of times there's old black magic, and so the difference between is the curse is just people with their intention will say, okay, I hope the people who take my land have no luck, or that they have ill health, or their families will not have any luck, or something like that. But whereas black magic involves some form of a ritual or an activity with the intention of tapping into the higher energies or other energies, or the earth spirits or whatever, to negatively again impact the people or their health or their crops or whatever it might be. So there were practices in Ireland, they're called pishogues, things like, they put eggs in the rows of potatoes so the potato crop would fail, and those type of things. But well, let's see, where was I going? Talking. So anyway, I check for all these things and more, even
Yes.
wall memory, and so, and it involves tuning in. So while I do the work, I call in spiritual or higher vibrational helpers. So Archangel Michael from the angel realm,
Right.
Jesus from the human realm, and then the Queen Daganda from the earth spirit realms or elemental realms. And so call all those in to do the work. And so I check what's there, do a ceremony with lots of different, to shift the energies that are negatively impacting the space or the people in it. And so it can be sounds, singing bowls or bells or chanting or prayers or using essential oils and movement. It can be it's unique for each property. So there's no set one way of dealing with what it is. So it's very individual. Interestingly, so we do this. My wife does this work as well. So if we're going somewhere, we go together to, I suppose, have each other's back, really, because
Right.
if you're going into a place where there's, paranormal activity, you need to be careful.
Yes,
It's
you
not
do.
like you
Absolutely.
just charge in and say, yeah, I'm here to Ghostbusters
Be
or
gone with
whatever.
you. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gabriel told me that
So
plenty
be
of times.
careful.
Not
Yeah.
not telling. He's like, don't just rush in there. No.
And but if we can also do this work from a distance, so I can tune in, sensitive enough, and then tune into, it's like the Matrix, that everything is connected or interconnected. And that's one of, actually, I have a chapter in the Death book, in Death You Gotta Love It book, called the Death Teachings, that there's teachings from death, but one of them is everything is interconnected. So when I'm doing energy clearing work, it doesn't matter. I've done places from Ireland, in the US, from Ireland, and being able to tune in and find out exactly, or tell the people, and I would often check afterwards if I've got it right. So, for example, I was working on a place, it was maybe 100 miles away here in Ireland, and I was getting this image of beech trees, and that's unusual, and then when we spoke to the lady afterwards, she was saying, oh yeah, or the whole land is surrounded by beech trees, so you get affirmations, that you're on the right track, let's say.
Yeah.
So you were asking about some things we come across. I mean, we cleared the place. Well, there was the people generally hear about us and contact us and say, look, one people were contacted were having, they had to rent it, they were leasing a house, but they couldn't, every time tenants stayed, they'd only come for a month or two and then they'd leave again. There
Right.
was a lot of activity
Right.
there that, but some that they were kind of aware of or weren't aware of. So the people themselves moved in, I think, because they couldn't let it out to anybody else. And there was a lot
Mm.
of, shadowy figures at the top of the stairs and lots of
Sure.
different things happening. So we did the clearing of the house, the whole clearing process. And the lady rang us the next day and said, what's happening? All the cupboard doors are opening and closing by themselves and banging.
Oh no.
And so we said, look, it's okay. The spirits that are there, they don't want to leave, but they have to leave because of what we did, and they're just letting you know that they're going. So let us know in 24 hours what's happening, and within a day, all that activity was gone. So,
Wow.
but we're very careful that we ask that the energy shift and move in the proper or best timing for the people living there. Because if you shift the energy too fast, it can be like too much of a shock for the people there. And we
Mm.
even careful that, that if people have pets, we check if they have a pet, because dogs are very, very sensitive to energy,
Yeah.
and so sometimes we'd ask them if they have dogs, can you take them for a walk or bring them to your friend's house for a few hours while
Mhm.
we're working on this. And so we check beforehand and then we check afterwards to see if everything that we have done is how it is now. And often, and as I said, sometimes, particularly if there are spirits or ghosts or entities there, they can take a little bit longer to move for, they can take a few hours or a day or two. And and we check again 6 weeks later just to make sure everything is okay. So people would give us feedback and say, that the least is that, people will come in and say, did you repaint the house? Or, it's like a breath of fresh air has blown through the place, that just the energies are now in alignment with the people who are there. We also work with the ancestors, the people who have lived on the land down through the years. And in the US, you see, you've had a lot of Native Americans who were driven off the land or massacred in different places.
Mhm.
So, so if in the US, you'll probably find that, there may have been traumas on the land depending on what happened. And if you build a house on land where something like this has happened,
Mhm.
you're more than likely going to get paranormal activity or some activity there, that may or may not be okay. And if it's something traumatic for the people who were there, well then it's not going to reflect very well on you, or on
Yeah.
your family living there. So yeah.
So Tony, when you clear a land, and
Mm.
the spirits have to move on, before we get into what a spirit is,
Yeah.
if we can move backwards for a second, and where do they go? So like, let's say you clear them and they
Yeah.
take a while to get there. Where is it that you're sending them?
We're sending them to their next highest level of existence.
Okay.
So
That's
that's
good.
nice catch up listening to
Yeah. No, I like
Yeah.
that. Which would be
Well,
wherever.
yeah, and sometimes it's not up to us. So we're leaving. Sometimes we'll ask, that we'll ask angels or guides or to
Mhm.
take them or help them or to come and help them move on, because they're generally oftentimes lost and oftentimes not, it's not, they're not evil or malignant. They're just, people who have died or been killed traumatically and don't realize a lot of the time maybe that they no longer have, that they're no longer, they feel like they have a body, but they no longer do. So they're still occupying the place as if they have, and that they can interfere with, there's, I was doing one recently, and this lady was in bed and she fell out of the bed and hurt her arm, but she was actually pushed out of the bed because there was just an old lady in the house, who thought it was still her house, and she wasn't particularly malignant, but she just said more or less like, "What are you doing in my house? Get out of my house!" Almost like of a thing,
Right.
And
Mhm.
so we helped her move on as well, So it's like, you see, it's an energetic presence, but we are
Mhm.
energy ourselves as well. And when
Right.
if two energies try and occupy the same space and they're not in alignment, well then there'll be some kind of discordant or some kind of, what's the word? Yeah, conflict.
It
Putting
makes
it
sense because
stronger.
energies
Yeah.
sometimes work together, sometimes they don't. So
Yeah.
when you
It's not
have,
even
like, if
knowing.
I move into a place and my energy is different than the energy
Yeah.
that's in the house, there's going to be some friction, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and if it is people who have passed, who have died even
Hmm.
however many years ago, see, sometimes a lot of that is beneficial, so your loved ones are going to be watching over you, and they're going to be making, doing their best to make sure everything runs smoothly for you, and if you want a bit of help energetically or want help in
Hmm.
any area of your life, you can ask your guides, your angels, but you can also ask deceased loved ones, say, lads, come here, would you help me out here with whatever it is, the house or the job or the relationship or
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
So, do you mind if we go
Fascinating.
to your death? You gotta love it. And before we land on that, what is a spirit? I mean, this whatever makes me Gabriel, right? Right?
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay. So I'm not my body. So one of the death teachings in Death You Gotta Love It is you are not your body. You are the energy that gives life to the body, or the life force that animates the body. So the body is like your mechanism for experiencing this, your time here on earth. And so when the body no longer functions, when it dies for some reason or other, you still exist. So generally people go through, if you explore near-death experiences or death experiences, people pass through the tunnel and they go to, the heavenly realms or onto their next realm. But if you don't, well then that's that's generally what are known as spirits or ghosts. That they haven't moved on and they're still oftentimes don't know that they have died, because it's almost like it can be, the next realm can be almost identical to what you have here, or they're
Oh,
still aware if they don't pass through the tunnel, or if they don't find some way of transitioning, going to the light or whatever. Well, then that they will still continue. Their energy will still be present, and we have different layers to our energy body. So when you see a ghost, it's usually the etheric body, which is that body that your first level of your light body, which is similar to identical to
mhm.
your physical body, but it's just light and energy. So when you see a ghost or a spirit or an entity, you're generally seeing the energy of the person who has passed, but you're seeing their etheric body, so their light, you're seeing part of their light body or their energy body. And so that's, for me, is what a ghost or a spirit is. And that's, when I talk about that, that's generally what I mean. If that,
Pretty good explanation, to be
Yeah,
honest with
that's
you. Yeah.
yeah,
super interesting.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Wow.
So your
Okay.
book, Death, you gotta love it.
Your book,
Let's
yeah.
go there since now that we know what energy is. So let's get into the death part of it.
Yeah. So Death You Gotta Love It is a book that I suppose it came to me. I don't know. I meditate a lot, so I was meditating one morning, and the thought of contemplating my death popped in. And with thoughts, when I'm meditating, I usually allow them to come and allow them to go, but this one wouldn't go. And to be honest, I didn't really want to go there. A bit like many people listening, or people with death. It's like, oh no, don't. Well, in Ireland, they
Scary,
say don't
right?
don't tempt fate. Don't talk about it unless you hasten its arrival. So,
Yeah.
and I had fears around death. So it took. Um, no, I did get to the stage where if I had a fear, I said, okay, the only way through my fear is the only way to deal with the fear is to go through it, really, to explore it as much as I
Right.
could. So I started reading, watching videos, whatever I could do to educate myself about death. So if you have a fear, whatever it is, the first step is to acknowledge that you have a fear, whatever that is, and then if you want to shift it, you take action. And sometimes to take action is just educating yourself.
Mhm.
So, whether it is ghosts, if you find out what they are, well then oftentimes you're less afraid of them when you're informed about what they are, so like
Right.
you asked me earlier. So the book That You Gotta Love It, for me, is my journey and everybody's journey from one of fear to, you're either in fear or you're in love. There are only two ways of being, so
True.
fear energies are anger, anxiety,
Hmm.
frustration, you know, and those, and love is the love and the joy and the peace.
Hmm.
And if you think about it, it's either in your thinking or your speaking or how you act that you will find that, okay, is this a fearful situation? And you know if it's fearful because fearful energy is diminishing and shrinking and you recoil from it,
Hmm.
whereas loving energy is expanding and joyful. So we're either one way or the other in everything in life. And it's not like I don't get fearful now, but if I do, I'm generally able to identify a bit more. Oh, I'm not comfortable with this way of being. So how do I switch from one to the other?
Mhm.
And one of our humanity's greatest fears is the fear of death, because there's a lot of talk of annihilation or judgment, or leaving loved ones behind, or not having fulfilled a perceived purpose. So there can be a lot of thoughts of fear, and in the general consciousness of humanity, death is seen as something to be fearful of. But yet, we're all going to experience it. As soon as you're born, you're going to die. Well, you have to differentiate. Your body is going
Yeah.
to die. And so, death, you gotta love it, takes you through from before you were born. So there are accounts of children um, who choose their parents.
Yes.
They're giving accounts of when they were in the spirit world with God, or whatever terminology the children's use, and they'll say, we choose our parents. And even there, there's one girl who was telling her mother, that she was a single mother living on her own. The father wasn't there, and the mother was sad one day, and she said, "It's okay, Mom. I knew you'd be sad, but when I was in heaven before I came here, I choose you because I knew we'd be alone together, but that you were very kind, so I choose you to be my mom."
I
And
love
so
that.
there's it starts with where were we before, not where we're going afterwards, but where were we before we were born. And so
Makes
then
sense.
it goes through children who remember past lives, and there's many examples in that, you gotta love it. Even fascinating ones, like the guy called Gus Taylor, who was looking at old family photographs, and he said, "Oh, that's me." He was his own grandfather. Actually, what happened was his father was changing his diaper. Nappies, we call them now. He was changing his diaper, and he said to his dad, "Oh, when you were a baby, I changed your diaper." And the
I've
father
heard
went,
that
"Oh."
story. Yes.
And so there's these fascinating stories of children who remember, their previous life. And then there's adults who remember their past lives. There's one, again, I gave a number of examples of those. There's one lady who was in England, and she remembered she was drawing kind of maps of a town, and she came across a map of a small town called Malahide in Ireland. And so she went there, and the map she had drawn was the exact replica of the town, the map of the town.
Wow.
And she I think under hypnosis, but she remembered that she died, I think, in childbirth or very young, and she left a big family, maybe, which wouldn't have been unusual in Ireland, and so many years ago, so 8 or 9 children or something like that. And she went and she found who were now all adult. She found her children who were now adults, and she was able to tell them. Things that only their mother could have known, and she
Wow.
became famous. I mean, she was on the Donovan show in the US and
Mhm.
stuff like that with some of her adult children. So it was like, okay, she was, so the reincarnation of coming back. So one of the themes running through the book is, as I said, you're not your body. So the energy that you are, you know, comes and goes in different bodies and has different experiences. And there's also sort of another theme running through it where you can explore the after death realms. Either people who have had, I call them death experiences because I believe they're not near death. I think they're death experiences, and people come back, and or people who have out of body experiences and explore the other dimensional realms, and they come back, and some of them have mapped them out and described them, and people who are able to leave the body, some of them have actually gone to the heavens, or the
Mhm.
different heavens.
Yeah.
So so there's a whole theme running through the book. First of all, that you're not your body, so you're the energy, as I said, that animates the body, and that cannot be destroyed. So if that cannot be destroyed, why are you in fear? So
The
the fear
unknown.
is the
Everything.
false fear.
Yeah.
That we are infinite beings, or
Right.
you are infinite beings who came here to have experiences. And of course, then this is the whole question of, well, why do we do that? So I believe that we are consciousness, really, that comes here to advance, or to basically the messages from people who have died, and people who've had death experiences are no longer afraid of death.
Yeah.
The people who explore out of body are generally not afraid of death because they know that they're not their physical body. So So one of the reasons, in my understanding, why we come here is to learn to love more, to learn to love, to raise the vibration of individually and then collectively of humanity. Now, you might, when you look at the world today, you might say, we're not doing a great job. But if you boil it down to individual people, generally people want to do good and be good and want to, have the happiest, most loving life possible on an individual level. It's just sometimes when we get together collectively, we're not so good at that. So,
Sure.
yeah, where was I?
No,
I
that's
don't
great.
know, but this is very,
So,
very interesting. And I want to kind of, so why do you think, I mean, certain people, according, like, might be reincarnated, where certain people might not be reincarnated and then go to, like, what their final resting place is? Or do you think everyone is reincarnated? I'm
Yeah,
a little curious in that one.
yes, we all reincarnate, even though I have a different take on reincarnation. I think it's all happening at the same time. So
Okay.
which is another dimension. But first of all, in let's call it reincarnation first, that we come back. You see, for me, just having one life doesn't make sense, because some people have, they've wonderful life and they're wealthy and they appear to have the joys of the world, and other people seem to have drawn the short straw, and they've very bad health, they're very poor, or they're not wealthy, or that they're struggling to survive. It doesn't make sense in the context. Life doesn't make sense in the context of one life. So if you see yourself as energy or a consciousness that wants to explore itself and wants to explore lots of different ways of being, well, then Earth is a wonderful place to come, and you might come and have a wonderful life and an easy life, to where you've loads of money and you've, everything is rosy in the garden. But that gets a bit boring after a while. So when you're higher consciousness level, before you come, you choose, okay, I'll choose some health issues, or I'll choose, struggles or relationship issues, or I'll choose, to have all these different experiences to see how I will respond. And you have a choice. You see, again, you
we're
have a
learning.
choice. You haven't a choice a lot of time about what happens, but you have a choice as to how you are with what happens. So your higher consciousness decides, I'm going to have all these experiences, and then you come to Earth and you forget that you've chosen all these things. And I've had people get very cross, annoyed with me, saying, "Oh, I didn't choose that. I wouldn't choose that," and I can understand that from the human level, but
Yeah.
from your higher spiritual level, everything that happens, you have chosen to see how you would get on with it. See, would you, and there's no, it's not like you can't fail. There's no right or wrong way. You just do your best with what the hand you've been drawn, or the hand you've been dealt. Is that the word?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's it's um, it's almost like you get to the stage where you can stand back and say, oh, all these things are happening to me. How am I choosing? How do I want to choose to be with them? And then you have a choice. And if you're in fear, the one way of switching from fear to love, by the way, just a little tip, is to be find a way of find what you're grateful for. So I have a gratitude practice in the morning when I wake up. Before I get out of bed, I list 5 things I'm grateful for, and it's sometimes I have someone in the bed beside me who loves me, or I have a car outside the door that starts when I turn the key or push the button, or I have a roof over my head, or it can be very simple. I have eyes that I can see, or
Mm.
I have fingers and I can see them. So when you're in a state of expressing gratitude, whatever it is, you cannot be in a space of fear, because gratitude is the doorway to love. So it's almost like if you are fearful, or if you're feeling low or sad, find something that you are grateful for, and it shifts your energy. It shifts you into a different way of being. Um, how did I get onto that? Yes, reincarnation.
No,
Or
Oh, that's
something.
amazing.
that's
Yeah.
actually very calming. You have a very calming personality, very calming energy. So I appreciate that. And people fear the unknown, but once you accept that,
Mm.
you know, you are more than what
Yeah.
we see, and
Mm.
there are other planes to go to. I think fear does subside, and that does make sense to me. What do you
Yeah.
think, Raven?
I think so too. I mean, once you, like you're kind of saying, like you kind of accept the fact that, like we're just energy, and we're just existing in this space. And I've heard that before, where people can choose some things that they're going to experience before they get here. And I'm like, oh, like you're saying, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Some of these choices I don't think I would have made, or would have picked out of a, yeah, let's do that this time. But that is very interesting, in coming into, like you're saying, coming into your earth body or whatever, and then going, but I'm not going to remember those choices I made.
Yeah,
And I'm just trying to have this different kind of experience.
Yeah, but the
It's fun.
willingness to maybe go through a life that's not easy,
Hmm.
that's a learning process
It
and a
is,
growth unto itself. I
right?
know that,
yeah,
for me personally, my life hasn't always been easy, but it's how you overcome it and the appreciation you have more so for the things that you surround yourself with because you overcame things.
Oh,
I can
100%.
definitely
Yeah.
see if there's an energy that wants more to grow, a good way of growth is overcoming obstacles. So I mean that makes
mhm,
sense.
Well,
yeah, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And the other thing is, just to add another, what's the word, ingredient to the whole
Right, another
recipe.
layer to the cake. I love it.
I, sometimes past life issues can come through into this life,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so when oftentimes I would become aware of it when I'm working one to one with people, or when they're going through the labyrinth, they'll stop at a certain point, and and sometimes it can be, they can feel, oh, there's something going on here, and I found with all the work I did on myself, I've become quite sensitive to. So the person I'm working with, I can generally feel a lot of what they're feeling, and I'm able to identify, oh, there's a lot of sadness coming in here, or there's anger. Is there something happening that's, what are you thinking of that you're angry about? And oftentimes they won't identify it. And I said
Hmm.
that, and I'll know, I know that's a past life issue. I says, okay, did something happen to you in a past life? And they say, and oftentimes I get a lot of people with throat issues, who have difficulty maybe expressing themselves in this life, or saying what they really think or what they really feel. And it can, or they have difficulty, this fear of speaking in public or whatever, or speaking or making themselves heard.
Hmm.
Invariably, a lot of the time, it comes back to something that happened in a past life where they might have had their throat cut, or they were hung, or whatever, and that, the memory of that, the energy of that is still there. So the people, if people have difficulty expressing themselves, if they're not aware that it's filtering through from a previous life, well then, or another life, well then, that they will, until they clear that, they may struggle to express themselves, or to speak out, or to whatever it is, issue that's impacting on them. And it can be anything from, fear of water to, but oftentimes it's around the throat chakra, and
Yep.
when I'm working with people, they're going, or I'm going, there's something happening with your throat here, so we need to do a clearing on that, and I have a technique of, I don't know. See, when I'm working, it's like I'm in a little, kind of higher state of awareness,
Right.
so ways of clearing these energies of whatever's happening with people, it comes through for me, and we do that with people, and they generally have, much better results and quality of life, or much better able to deal with, start expressing themselves than they were previously beforehand, so it's yeah, it's kind of fascinating. Oh, I'll tell you, how long have we got? I'll tell you a story.
Yeah,
We
tell,
love
tell us a
stories. Go
story.
ahead.
The Irish are great storytellers, you see. um, I had, when I was younger, a young man, I would have a problem with my stomach, but not digestion, but the muscles in my stomach. And if I was standing at a football game, sometimes I'd have to, we don't have seats in the stadium. I'd have to go and sit down, that my stomach would cramp and I couldn't stay standing.
Mm-hmm.
And so this would happen every now and again, and I just, I never got it checked, but before I went to France over 20 years ago to train in labyrinths, and there's a famous labyrinth in the cathedral there in Chartres, and I was going there for 10 days on a retreat and to learn how to train in it. And at the airport, my now wife was moving into the house to look after my kids, and she was at the airport, and sometimes she says there's a soldier standing behind you, and I went to turn around, she said, no, in your energy field, she was seeing an image of a soldier, and we couldn't figure out who it was. And so when I was in Chartres in France, in this town. I couldn't sleep one night, 3 o'clock in the morning, not 1 o'clock now, you have to wait another hour.
Yeah, right.
I went for a
You'd be up.
walk, I couldn't sleep, so I went for a walk, and I was coming back a few hours later at 6 o'clock, it was getting bright, and there was this huge war memorial with hundreds, maybe thousands of names of French people who had died in the First World War and Second World War. And I sat with my back to it, and something prompted me to turn around, and one of the names rose up out of it. It was like, oh, and I'm going, what's happening here, And I was starting using a pendulum to ask questions. It goes one way for yes and
Yeah.
another way for no. So I had a pendulum, and it was early in my time in this kind of stuff. And I said, it was this me in a past life, and I got it strong. It nearly took off out of my hand, and I go, oh. And then I started asking questions. How did I die? Was I shot in the head? No. Was I shot in the chest? No. And as soon as I asked, was I shot in the stomach, I bent over double. My stomach cramped. I bent over
Oh.
double for about a minute with the pains, and it was quite severe. And then it eased. And so then I started asking questions like, where did I die? Did I die in the battlefield? No. Did I die in an ambulance? No. Did I die in a hospital? No. I couldn't figure out where I died. And so for some reason I asked, did I die in a farm building, in a barn? And I got a very, very strong yes.
Ah.
And I was telling my wife, I'd ring her every night and tell her the story, And she came back and she said the next day, and she said, my daughter's reminded me of a dream I had. She had a vivid dream on a number of occasions where she was a teenage girl, about 16, living on a farm during wartime, and this soldier crawled into the barn. He was shot in the stomach. And she said, I tried to do
Oh.
healing on him, but he died. And I was like,
Wow.
whoa. So,
That gave me the chills. So you met your wife in a past life, more than likely.
yeah. And somebody
Wow.
told us we've had 26 past lives together, So oftentimes, things like love at first sight, that's really, you're more than likely, you know the energy of the people, and you just have this instant connection with them,
Yeah.
That's really past life remembrance,
Mhm.
It can be positive or it can be. So oftentimes if people go to strange places on holidays, and I'm sure you know some of these people, every year they go back to this obscure, distant
Right.
place, they
Yeah.
more than likely had a past life there, and so they feel so comfortable, or they had a nice past life, and they feel comfortable in this space, so when they go back in this life, they still get back into that feeling, So on the other hand, if you had something, oh, sorry, I wouldn't go there, I don't like
Right.
that country, or I don't like that city, probably
Yeah.
didn't have a very nice past life there.
Well, I wanna just touch on that a little bit, only because of the fact like there are certain places that I go that I feel so comfortable, like being in that place, and I'm like, oh, I feel really good here, and like I've never felt like in my hometown, like it's never been my
Yeah.
place. You know what I'm saying?
True,
Like
true.
I've always been like,
Yeah,
this is not it. This is not the place. But then I'll
yeah,
go somewhere like 1,000 miles away. And I'm like, ooh, this feels good. Like this
yeah,
feels like a
yeah,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a key to life, and to as much as possible find the places and the things that where you feel most comfortable, doing or being, and okay,
Enjoy
if
'em.
you can't you might necessarily be able to up ship and move, but that becoming aware of how you're feeling is the first step towards shifting how you approach or how you respond to whatever is happening.
Yeah. Wow.
You are a fascinating man, my friend.
You really are.
Thank you.
Like we knew the book was going to be fascinating, but man,
Right.
you really are. I
Yeah,
could just
yeah.
listen to you all day, Tony. All day.
So how do people find you, Tony?
And
Okay,
buy
I
your
have
book.
a
Definitely.
website
Yeah,
called
buy the book. Yeah.
TonyMChristie.com with an M for Mike. I was christened Michael, but you haven't time for that story. Um, so I have a website, TonyMChristie.com, or you'll find me on social media. You see, I share a Labyrinth wisdom card every day, depending on, usually on Instagram and Facebook. So please find me there and follow me, or, sign up for my mailing list on my website. Yeah, and as I said, my latest, what I'm doing now is my latest promoting the book, Death, You Gotta Love
Right.
It. It's available to pre-order now on Amazon. You'll get it in a couple of weeks, if you order it now. And it's really about, I think, shifting it. If for me, if I examine what all this is about, because I never thought I'd be writing a book on death, and I didn't always want to, but I had to. Let's put it like that. It's about shifting the consciousness of humanity to a different level, overall, but one by one. So wherever you're at, if you read Death, You Gotta Love It, you're going to be in a different way of thinking about life and death after reading it. So, but if you don't, let me know. Please buy the book and read it, and let me know what you think. Send me a message. I'll do my best to reply to every message or email or I get. So yeah.
Love it.
Raven, what a fantastic man. What do we have going on? Nothing like he has going on, but
Nothing like
what
he
do
has
we?
going on.
Yeah,
Obviously, I'm going to start reading real soon.
yeah.
I mean, I think pre-ordering that book for sure. I'm really, really interested to see what else you have in that
Yeah.
book. So,
Well,
and
there's a
also
lot of
now I
them.
want a labyrinth. Now I want to just go build one in my
So
yard.
do I.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
I think I
So I
could.
actually the end stage of Loving Death is celebrating it. So my birthday is on is on the 29th of July, but I'm calling it, there's a chapter in Death You Gotta Love It called Happy Death's Day. And
Mm.
that was the ultimate stage. It took me a long time to be able to write about it or to talk about that. Can I have a I'm having a day on the 29th of July. I'm going to go online and have a party to celebrate my forthcoming death.
Well, we have to join him on
And
his
you're all
party.
invited.
Yeah.
Everyone's invited.
Thank you.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
don't
I
know
love
what's going to happen or what the cake will look like, but if we'll have a cake.
it. That's great.
Well, Raven, this has been fantastic. Do we have anything going on this week?
Well, as always, we have some more guests coming up, but when it comes to, you know what, I'm going to tell you, my mom can't stop talking about Gettysburg. We are going to
Gettysburg,
Gettysburg
Pennsylvania.
at the end of August. Yeah, I even talked to her today, and that was a whole thing. Super, super excited to do an event in Gettysburg at the end of August. But as for us, we're still doing all of our things that we do. So going live twice a week with our wonderful guests, such as Tony. So stay tuned. We'll be definitely promoting what we have coming up on all of our socials. So
Well,
I
Tony,
got
thank you so much for spending time with us tonight and for sharing your knowledge, experience, and insights, which has been fascinating. Conversations like this remind us that the paranormal isn't always about shadows in the dark, hallways, or unexplained noise in abandoned buildings. Sometimes it's about exploring the biggest question of all: life, death, consciousness, purpose, and the mysteries that connect us all. We encourage everyone watching and listening to check out Tony's books, Labyrinth, Your Path to Self-Discovery, and Death, You Gotta Love It, which seems fascinating. Choosing love over fear in life's greatest transition. To all of our listeners and viewers, thank you for joining us tonight. And for all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. Be sure to follow Darkwoods Paranormal on social media and visit our websites for upcoming investigations, interviews, events, and new episodes. Once again, a special thanks to our guest, Tony, and to our sponsors, Dark Realm TV, Shaker Cigar Bar, love them, and Unbox Media LLC. If you've enjoyed tonight's discussion, please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Every share helps us continue bringing these fascinating people and conversations. Until next time, remind that the world is full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. Some are found in forgotten places, some are hidden in history, and some may be found within ourselves. From all of us here at Darkwoods Paranormal, I'm Gabriel Von Graves, Raven Knight, and Tony Christie. Thank you very much. Stay curious, stay aware, and do stay safe out there. Good night to everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Just hanging on just a few more seconds. Thank you, sir.